Hi everyone, we're on chapter 4, More Than Just a Pretty Face by Saeed M. Masood. And we're getting started. Kaval walked up to me in chem, somehow managed to look glamorous in the protective goggles we had to wear that day. Hey partner, she said. Where's Aaron? Our chemistry teacher had assigned lab partners at the beginning of the year, and I was supposed to work with Aaron Mendez. We got along fine, mostly because he actually knew what he was doing, and I tried my best not to touch anything that looked like it might explode. We switched for today, a little smirk on Kaval's lips. You are not complaining, are you? Me complain about working with her? Impossible. Of course not. I thought we were allowed to switch, though. I asked nicely. Mr. Jang said it was fine. He was very sweet about it. I frowned. Our chemistry teacher had never been sweet to me. I looked around the classroom, and sure enough, Aaron was clear on the other side of the room, and Mr. Jang didn't seem like he had a problem with it. In fact, he didn't seem to care about anything but his plans for the Renaissance Man, which he was discussing intently with Trinity Selassie, whom he picked to represent chemistry. I let Kaval take the lead as we set up the experiment. She was a better partner than Aaron, and in that she didn't hesitate to order me to do things. Aaron usually did everything, even though I was happy to help. I wasn't lazy, it was just that I usually only had a vague idea of what I was supposed to do. Today, I lit the Bunsen burner with Kaval when Kaval told me to fetch the test tubes we needed. So, Kaval said, her voice totally casual, we didn't get to finish our conversation last night. When I was showing you up on the basketball court, you mean? She raised her eyebrows at me. What? I asked. That's how I remember it. Kaval shook her head. Whatever. I never got to say what I wanted to say to you. Say it now. I'm getting to it. I raised my hands by way of apology and almost spilled the purple liquid in the test tube I was holding. What was the stuff, anyway? Boron? No. Potassium? Sodium, maybe? It looked like it might have tasted like lavender, but taking a sip was probably inadvisable. I heard you had a visitor recently. I carefully placed the tube on a rack before I could mess up. Visitor? I heard some aunties gossiping. Apparently some girl came over to your place. You know, a marriage prospect. She heard about Bisma Akram, obviously. Yeah, you know, parents. I heard your family liked her. Did you? Kaval's eyes were locked on mine, and her gaze was very intense. I mean, you know, she seemed nice, but not for you. Right, I said, exactly, it's not happening. I'm glad, Kaval said, and then she giggled at my surprised expression. I'm just saying, you know, it would be a shame if you made a decision like that without talking to me first. She brushed her hand up against mine as she reached for the test tube full of purple. I tried and failed to keep my expression neutral as my heart danced with knowledge that Kaval Subvari was flirting with me. We had a chemistry together. I stood up straighter and a huge grin spread over my face. This was awesome. Are you saying, I started with hope, I'm not saying anything except that it's a big decision. Just don't jump into anything without talking to your friends. Her smile got playful. You're not the best prospect in the world or anything, but very funny. I guess I deserved that. Yes, you definitely did. What Kaval had said made me so weightless it was impossible to concentrate during history. She hadn't said she liked me, of course, but she totally hinted at it. Right, yes, definitely. I wasn't wrong about this. Why hadn't she just come out and said it, though? Saying don't jump into anything seemed a long way off from what I wanted to hear. I was reaching into my pocket as stealthily as possible to text Czar to ask his opinion when I realized Mr. Tippett had stopped talking in the middle of his lecture. I looked up, wondering if he'd seen what I was doing. He hadn't. Kaval raised her hand. This wasn't really done in Tippett's class. He didn't like questions. What is it, Miss Subzara? We're all wondering if you picked someone for the Renaissance Man. Be precise, Ms. Subvara. Who is we? Like, everyone. There was a murmur of agreement with the rest of the class. I rolled my eyes. Indeed. Am I to understand that all of you are conspirators in this delightful disruption to my day? Surely there is someone here who does not care about the ridiculous award. this ridiculous award. I should have kept my mouth shut, but I never really been good at doing that. I raised my hand. I don't care, like, at all, if that... Wait. Sorry. I never been really good at doing that. I raised my hand. I don't care, like, at all, if that, helps. There was some giggling and snickering. I sat back in my chair, content with the reaction. Yes, Mr. Jelani, Tippett drawled, his tone a little amused. I'm familiar with your impressive talent for apathy. Anyone else share his lack of enthusiasm for puffed-up self-congratulatory pageantry? Anyone at all? No one else spoke up. Very well, Algie Tippett said. He fixed his gaze on me. In that case, congratulations, Daniel. History will find you to have been, against all odds, a Renaissance man. A shocked silence followed Tippett's announcement. When a pick for Renaissance man was announced, there was usually a lot of cheering and backslapping for the chosen one. It was, as everyone polite who has ever been up for an award says, an honor to be nominated. It meant, at the very least, that one teacher thought highly of you. That wasn't the case here. Tippett had just selected me out of spite. I am nowhere near the best student in his class. In fact, I was the absolute worst. Our teacher smirked. I felt smaller than I had ever before. Intezar, blessed his big, dumb heart, actually started clapping, but when no one joined him, he gave up awkwardly. Very funny, Alan Rhodes called from the back of the class. Who are you actually going to pick? I turned around to glare at Alan. What did he care? He was already in Renaissance man. He had been picked for mathematics. What was it about my statement that you failed to understand, Mr. Rhodes? Tippett asked. Can't be serious. Jelani is an idiot. There was some scattered laughter before Cavall whirled around and said, Don't be Alan. I'm not going to lie. Seeing Cavall defend me almost made the humiliation of the moment worth it, especially because Tippett's ridiculous decision had to sting her the most. She wasn't going to get into the competition now. There were a couple of oohs around the room at Cavall's remark, as our teacher said, Please don't be inappropriate, Miss Savari. But enough, Tippett said. Whatever intellectual limitations you all feel Mr. Jelani suffers from, he is going to represent this class in Renaissance Man. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with the principal now, right now. This time, no one said a word. Very good then. Now, as I was saying, Winston Churchill. Oh, by the way, Mr. Jelani, you really ought to pay attention. You see, the subject of this lesson, Churchill, will be your topic for Renaissance Man. I trust you will be motivated to not make a public fool out of yourself for once. Ooh, I glared at him viciously, pulled a cap off a pen, and prepared to take notes. Excellent, let's get started, shall we? One must not keep history waiting. You can't do this, I said, standing for Algie Tippett's desk, arms crossed, with a poop ton of boredom in his eyes. My history teacher watched everyone else file out of the room. Cavall whispered, Good luck, as she hurried past, and Czar gave me an enthusiastic thumbs up. Now, Tippett said, leaning back into the cheap, creaking plastic chair the school had provided him, what precisely is the problem? Mr. Jelani, you know what the problem is? I tried to stay calm. I was basically a superstar when it came to not raising my voice while frustrated. I lived with my father my entire life, after all, the Renaissance man. That hardly seems like a problem. In fact, I would go so far as to say congratulations are in order, wouldn't you? This isn't funny. As you mature, Mr. Jelani, I believe you will realize the most humor is simply a matter of perspective. There are many ways in which your current situation is objectively amusing. I managed to resist the urge to pick up an apple on his desk. He got one for himself and displayed it prominently every day and fling it against the wall. I don't belong in that contest. Ah, then you agree that Mr. Rhodes' assertion that you are in fact an idiot? No, I said, obviously. In that case, by all means, elaborate on the nature of your concern. I'm not I'm not an idiot. A proposition that is becoming less certain by the second, I assure you. But I'm not as good at school. I won't win. I've got no chance. So all that happens is that everyone who actually cares about being Renaissance man is going to be pissed off or pissed at me for taking their spot. I suspect that they're going to be rather more pissed. He took the time to put up the world's slowest air quotes at me than they are at you. It isn't just them, my parents. My mother's going to get all excited, and then I'm going to get laughed off the stage. I'm going to be a joke. Just look, I'm sorry I was rude or whatever about Churchill the other day, but please pick somebody else, anyone else. This should go to your top student. And if I were to assure you that it was not my intention to punish you, would that change your mind at all? That stopped me for a moment. I couldn't begin to figure out what he meant, though. It wasn't. It wasn't? Not entirely, no, Daniel. I've been in this institution for a little short of a half century. In that time, none of my students have won Renaissance Man, he harumphed. Now that I think about it, the name of the contest is getting rather dated. Perhaps I should talk to the principal about making it more inclusive. What about me, I asked. He clapped his age-spotted hands together. Ah, yes, the central question of youth. My point is, I do not expect you to win anything. That's never been my goal of mine. That made no sense. What reason outside of winning could there be for entering a contest? Obviously, given how entrenched you are in your belief that you cannot succeed in any kind of academic pursuit, victory is impossible. However, I do expect you not to be a joke. That much I am sure is in your power. Do you understand? But excellent. Now please excuse me. I'm old. My time is precious, and you've taken up more than enough of it for one day. Shaking my head, I stormed out, trying to make sense or make sure I wasn't muttering unpleasant truths about Tippett loud enough for him to hear. Almost the entire class was waiting for me when I stepped out. I gave them a little wave. No one waved back, and closed the door behind me. As soon as it clicked into place, Alan Rose demanded, "Did you ask him to pick someone else?" I nodded. And I shook my head. Everyone groaned. Ugh. This is completely ridiculous, Alan said, raising his voice to be heard over the noise. We should put a petition together. Tippett can't demean Renaissance Man by picking someone like Jelani. Look, guys, I'm sorry, okay? I asked him to go with the top student in his class. Will you sign the petition? I didn't see who asked, but curious whispering followed. I was about to tell them I would when Cavall said, "No, why should he? This is BS. It isn't like only the top scorers in every subject get entered. That's how it should be," Alan muttered. It isn't, though, and no one ever gets asked to drop out, except Jelani will probably be a dropout entirely soon enough. Jerk, Cavall snapped. Stop calling me that, then stop being a jerk. A couple of people laughed. When the bell rang for the next period, they began moving away. Alan left too, walking backward all the way down the hall so he could glare at me the entire time. Cavall turned to me. Look, Daniel, we all know that Tippett was being a jerk when he went with you, but this is a huge opportunity. You could show everyone what you're really made of. This could be your version of Tom Brady being picked in the 6th round of the draft. Antizar stared at her. You follow football? I follow Giselle, Cavall said. Anyway, I'm just saying, this could be a turning point for you. Don't give it up. That's nice, I said. Really, except for one problem. What? Tom Brady can actually play little football, Antizar told her. Whatever. Look, I promise to help you. You can come over to my place. We'll work on it together. How could I say no to that? Renaissance man, Sir Rob called out when he saw me. It was, I could tell, meant to be an exclamation, like someone shouted, "Dude," or "That's awesome." Since it was Sir Rob Sabrai who said it, it came out calm and sober. He was incapable of getting fired up. I made a face like he said something gross. A couple of kids standing nearby rolled their eyes. I glared at them with all the venom I could manage, which wasn't much, but it had been, like 2 hours, and I was already growing tired of all the whispers and snide comments I'd been getting since Tippett announced I was his pick. You don't seem very enthusiastic. How can you not think of this as good? It's not my thing, you know? I'm not applying to college. I need the boost. But $5,000 would be nice. I chuckled at the understatement. Yeah, that would be huge, but I'd have to win to get it, and we both know that's not going to happen. Losing spectacularly, though, is very much in the cards. It's still an accomplishment, Saurabh insisted. We should do something to celebrate. Like what? Well, there's a fascinating scholar coming up to the mosque next month after Maghrib to give a talk. We could go to that. How is that a celebration? Saurabh narrowed his eyes at me. God is fun, he said, in a tone that suggested it'd be total blasphemy to disagree. Maybe. The people who like to get together and talk about him, though. I did tell you, he said, that you're not as funny as you think, didn't I? Don't start. Anyway, I just meant that a month seems a long time away to wait for celebrating. You're just trying to get me to come to mosque with you, aren't you? Saurabh rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Maybe, but only because I always ended up going to these things alone. I miss hanging with you guys. Emotional blackmail, a total uncle move. I had to admit it was effective, though. What was I supposed to say to that? Come on, please. It'll be great. I'll text you the details, and I should also invite Intezar. No, you shouldn't. Fine. You know him better than I do. I grimaced. The way he'd said that had been so well said, I guess, but also lonely. To make him feel better about his fraying relationship with Czar, and because I hadn't really been spending a lot of time with him, I said, fine, I'm in. Fantastic, Saurabh said. I could tell he was excited because I knew him, but really, there was no way to tell from his tone or his face. You won't regret it. You'll talk so much about being handsome that you don't spend any time becoming handsome. I mean, of course, that you have to work on beautifying your soul. Hey, I cut in. Remember the time you said I wouldn't regret agreeing to go to the mosque with you? Saurabh frowned. You mean a few seconds ago? Yeah, just so you know, I regret it already.